The truth is, figuring out what you're going to grow in your GreenStalk vertical planter can be a challenge. You've got all these levels and all of these spaces to grow, and you've got to think three-dimensionally. It can be a little more difficult than just a flat garden bed. But the answer is here to make planning easier and to be able to track everything you're growing. Join me today as I tell you about it. Hi, I'm Gardener Scott, and of course these are my GreenStalk vertical planters. Between the three of them I have 17 tiers, and each tier has 6 pockets, which gives me 102 places that I can grow plants. But it's all in a very small footprint, so trying to figure out 102 plants that are growing between all of these tiers and all of these pockets and all of these towers, and to make matters worse, I'm probably going to be adding a 4th GreenStalk vertical planter soon. It can be overwhelming. And so in the past, I've taken the easy way out. The way I've kept it easy in all these years I've been growing in a GreenStalk is to group my plants. Not think of each of these pockets as an individual opportunity, but instead looking at each of these tiers, each level as being a single type of plant. So instead of 6 different plants on this level, I would grow 6 of a particular variety of spinach. And this level would be all lettuce, and this level might be all peas. And I did that throughout all of my GreenStalk vertical planters, grouping everything to make it easy to plan, easy to sow, easy to maintain, and most importantly, easy to keep track of. But that all changes this year. That's because I discovered that GreenStalk has a garden journal specifically designed for managing a number of different plants within the GreenStalk vertical planter. And while this includes a lot of great stuff that I think is very important to have in a garden journal, and I'll show you that here in just a bit, the heart of this journal, and literally the heart, it's in the middle of this book, is the planting map, specifically designed for thinking of each of the GreenStalk pockets as an individual growing opportunity. You can now take an individual tier of the 6 pockets and fill it out with individual plants for each of those pockets with the date that it's planted and any comments. So I think the easiest way to do this might be for number 1 to just write in pepper and then fill in over here the date that you plant the pepper, the variety it is, and any other thing that you might want to put on this page. Now, it makes sense to group the plant type. So in one tier, I might grow all peppers, like in the example that I'm beginning here. These are 6 different types of peppers that I traditionally grow. A shishito pepper, a couple types of jalapeno, a cayenne, an Anaheim, a California Wonder. And in the past, I would group multiple plants on a level just to track it easier. But with this new system, I can actually grow 1 plant of each of these varieties on a single tier and know exactly which plants are in each of the pockets. The tiers and pockets are not imprinted with numbers, so you will need to figure out a way to keep track of which pocket is which. Last year I started using these vinyl stickers that you can write what the plant is and then erase it and then change it as needed. And there's a number of other stickers that they offer as well. What I'm going to do is use these stickers for me to identify which is pocket number 1. I like working top to bottom, so for my planning purposes, I'll use the top tier as number 1 and then count down to the bottom. So these 2 pages right here work well for a 6-tier tower. everything can be included on here. Now I really like that they've added the date planted column, because this is perfect for succession planting. With succession planting, you stagger when you put the seeds or plants in the ground. So whereas in the past I might have grown an entire level of the Merlot lettuce, now I can do maybe 2 pockets with the Merlot lettuce, 2 pockets with this Landis Winter, and 2 pockets with the Gourmet Blend lettuce. And then 2 weeks later, do the same thing again with these 3 different varieties, 2, 2, and 2. And then 2 weeks later, do the same thing again. And so what happens is that these lettuces are maturing at different rates. And if you keep up the succession planting, by the time you are harvesting that first group of plants, you're still planting other seeds. And you can have a harvest, in this case of lettuce, over the course of many months, because every 2 weeks you've got new plants that are reaching maturity, ready to harvest. And I can keep track of that all in here. Once a level has been completely harvested, I just start new seeds on that same level. You don't need to think of this as a permanent plan, and you can only use each of these sections once. Over the course of the season, I can change the date planted. I can just erase my pencil mark and write in a new date. Everything else can be the same if I want to follow the same basic plan for that succession planting. Or you can erase everything and just start over with a whole new plan. Now, I'm old school. I like having a book and a pencil and writing things down. GreenStalk also has the opportunity to download the electronic version of this garden planner. You can do the PDF files and print as many as you want and create your own journal using your own binder. This is sturdy. This is a great size. I like the idea of having this. I can stick it on a shelf and I can actually take it outside to write any notes that I want to write in it. At the beginning, you actually have some pockets where you can take the seeds and slide them into the pocket and keep track of what the seed packet information says. I think that's so important. Too often, we don't pay attention to the seed packet enough, and halfway through the season there's something we want to know, but we can't find the seed packet. Here it is, right at my fingertips. There are a number of different sections that you have the opportunity to fill in with these tabs that'll take you to the calendar section. Again, it's all blank. You fill in whatever the month is, whatever the days happen to be. The section with a number of different planting map opportunities for those of us who have a lot of green stalks. You have this section, which is the plant log. And so after you're growing something, you can track the name, when you planted it, who you purchased it from, any comments like it did well, it didn't do well. You can actually give a 5-star rating and whether you would plant it again. Things like this are important in a garden journal because you should review each year's garden before you plan the next year's garden. That's because all of our gardener brains don't remember everything we would like to remember. We have plants that do well in our garden and we'd like to grow them again. There are plants that may not do as well and we might not want to grow that in the garden again, but unless we make a note of it, for those of us who save all of our seeds from year to year, I might come across a seed packet, forget that it didn't do well, and then go ahead and waste garden space by growing the same thing again. You've got this section, which is just a number of lists, inventories and supplies, whether you've ordered it or not. This is very helpful in figuring out what you have in place. And then there's also extensive to-do lists, the things that need to get done in the garden. Believe me, it's better to write it down and plan to do it and then check it off after it's done than to wait halfway through the season, or worse yet, till the end of the season and realize you never got around to doing it. And then of course, the notes section is very extensive. And this is set up with grid paper. With the grid paper, you can treat each of these as a line to write down a note, or you can actually do little diagrams and measurements and figure out whatever you want to do using the grids to scale. In the past, I always had to figure a workaround using grid paper or even a planning app to try to figure out what was going into each of the 6 pockets. I don't need to do that anymore. Everything I need is right here. Now, it's still the middle of winter in my Colorado garden, so I'm not going to be planting for at least another month, maybe more. I've got plenty of time to get everything figured out, to put my seed packets in place so that they're ready to sow, and then to start keeping track of everything. I'm going to go ahead and put a link in the description below to GreenStalk. If you already have some of your vertical planters, you might want to add this to how you're growing in your GreenStalk. And if you're looking at starting to get a tower for the first time, you might want to add this to your shopping cart. I wish I would have had this opportunity years ago. I sure am glad I have it now. I'm Gardener Scott. Enjoy gardening.